Sacrifice and instinct.
Jedi.
That's no moon. It's a space station.
Always a pleasure to meet a Jedi.
And my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
You failed, Your Highness. I'm a Jedi.
Hello, explorers, and welcome to episode 104. And as always, thank you very, very much for joining us. Now, of course, hopefully you like what you hear, so please leave us a rating on your podcast provider of choice. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, for all your lightsaber and cosplay needs, make sure you head over to All Sabers and use our cheeky little discount code explore_the_force for 10% off. Joining me as ever is the wonderful Jack. How are you, my guy?
I am doing very, very well, thank you. I'm on an absolute high because this evening, as we are recording, we have hit 6,000 followers over on our Instagram. So again, as always, a massive shout out and thank you to everybody that has helped us reach this milestone today. We super, super appreciate every single one of you. Charlie, my love, how's your day been?
My day has been long, but honestly, seeing that we hit 6K just before we started recording has given me the boost that I need to get through this show. Because, guys, I was up at 4:30, I went straight to a Comic Con, and I've been teaching children how to fight the dark side all day. It's been brilliant. Ray is very, very, very tired.
Brilliant. Love it. What fun fact have you got for us this week, Charlie?
So since everybody seemed to really enjoy my fun fact segment last week, we're making it a permanent feature on Explore the Force. So my fun fact this week, my notifications for the podcast social media have been absolutely blowing up because on one of our reels, people seem to be aggressively arguing about Grand Moff Tarkin and his slippers. It is It is in fact 100% true that Peter Cushing, for every single scene where you cannot see Tarkin's feet, he is wearing a very comfortable, very sensible pair of slippers. I can confirm that is 100% true. There are multiple photos of him on set in said slippers. There are photos of the slippers themselves if you so wish to see them. Please stop arguing about it because it's true.
Absolutely love it. Right, let's head over then to this week's Force Encounters.
For my ally is the Force.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Force Encounters. I have a very special one to share with us today. So, obviously, I said at the start of the show, I went to a Comic Con today in Reading. It was just a small local event, but I actually ended up having a really, really fun time. I met Tracy Beaker, best time of my life. For anyone who
Legend.
doesn't know, a character portrayed by an actress called Danny Harmer, and she was hugely, hugely popular on television in the 90s and the early 2000s. A
Yes.
big part of a lot of British people's childhoods, whether you're a parent or a kid, you know Tracy Beaker. Anyway, this is about Force Encounters. So I wasn't looking for anything Star Wars in particular, but if you know me, then you know that I love the one and only Jar Jar Binks. So I like to collect strange and obscure Jar Jar merch, and I was perusing the stalls in my free time when I wasn't training younglings, and I so happened to spy this wonderful box. For our listeners, this is a hexagonal box with Star Wars Episode 1 on the front of it, and it says ceramic mug. Are there any guesses what might be inside, boys and girls?
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
I'll open it up. We're opening it up for this in ASMR for you.
Oh, a box reveal. A box reveal.
Box reveal. Fully boxed in all of the original packaging.
Oh, bubble wrap.
Behold,
Oh,
my
wow.
my ugly son. Look at him. For those of you who aren't watching this episode, and you should be because you need to see this with your own two eyes, this is a ceramic head mug of Jar Jar Binks.
That is something.
It is in pristine condition. It is fully painted and glazed in high detail. I can't believe I'm going into such intense detail about
I
this,
know,
but
right?
he's absolutely beautiful.
That is absolutely gorgeous. I was not expecting that when you pulled that out of the box. It's huge as well.
It is huge. So I have a couple of other face mugs of Star Wars characters. I have a Rey one, which I'm sure a few people have seen me drink out of on the show. This will not be for drinking, this will be for display purposes only. But he's absolutely beautiful and another treasure to add to my collection. By the way, hit up the Explore the Force social media if you would like a full tour of my Jar Jar Binks collection.
Nice, nice. Cheeky little plug there, like it. My Force encounter, so I've been super, super busy in terms of doing the socials and also sorting out some special guests. And I can confirm we have another big person coming on the podcast later in the year. You've not got to wait too long for those that are listening. And also, we've just linked up with someone else that's quite special as well. So we're waiting to see what comes from that. I can't give too much away yet, but I'm just giving a little snippet to all the listeners and viewers at home. Big things are coming, and this is all down to you guys and girls supporting us. So we'd like to give a little something back. Right then, let's head over to Batuu and see what news we've got coming out of there.
The people in this crowd will soon be among almost 40,000.
For those who are among the 900 with news media or promotional tickets, this sneak preview probably will be the only chance to see the Empire Strikes Back.
This week's news, then, Tony Gilroy revealed in an interview with Entertainment Weekly that the idea to put the origin of that famous phrase rebellions are built on hope, which was in Rogue One, was indeed his son's idea. So obviously the brains of writing run strong in the Gilroy family. He said, and I quote, "My son is a big Star Wars fan, and he often comes to the house and busts my balls at the computer about how little I know. One day he's there at the house and he's goofballing on me, and he's like, well, who's going to introduce rebellions are built on hope?" And Tony says to him, "What do you mean?" His son replies, "Well, in Rogue One, Diego says it and Jin repeats it." Tony then replies, "Well, isn't that from somewhere?" And his son goes, "No, man, what are you talking about? You better figure it out." And obviously, we're going to go into it in a bit of detail later in the main show, but the hotel clerk is such a groovy little character. It definitely comes from Tony's son busting his balls, as you said, and that's a really good catch from Tony's son, I think. Nice little touch, and there's quite a few nice little touches in this week's arc. What other news have you got, Charlie?
So the press has been exploding. Obviously, all of this kind of Andor hype that's going on as the season comes to its conclusion. Tony Gilroy has been doing some wonderful interviews, and he actually spoke about an episode that was cut from the Andor run of season 2, which would have been a K2 horror story. So he's quoted as saying, Dan Gilroy wrote an amazing, entirely self-contained episode that was episode 209. It was an amazing episode that was like a horror movie, and it was a K2 story. They had to bring this huge, ugly tanker ship to Yavin, and there was a KX unit that was trapped inside there hunting. It was sort of like a monster movie with K2 on it. It was really cool. Unfortunately, it seems that this hypothetical episode was cut due to budgetary issues, and apparently bringing a CGI droid like K2SO to life is super expensive, hence the reason why he arrived so late in this season.
Yeah.
Right. I've seen those costumes. I understand. I respect it. Take all the money you need for those costumes because I'm absolutely obsessed with it. Tony Gilroy went on to say, "We couldn't afford to do it. It was made clear that it was out of the range, so we had to abandon that and consolidate some things. It's like what we did with Aldani. Danny got burned twice. He wrote the Aldani episode pre-COVID where there were 2,000 people in Aldani. It was like Glastonbury, this huge festival. And then by time we got there after COVID, they said, well, you'd be happy if you'll get 150 people in there. We were like, oh my God, we have to change the whole story. Everything had to change. That's a really interesting point. I never
Yeah.
considered that. Obviously, the pandemic affected a huge amount of things within the film and TV industry, but specifically numbers and safety of numbers of people you were allowed on set. I guess before it was as many as you wanted, go mad,
Yeah.
go crazy. But now that's insane.
It is.
So it seems that like Tony had already hinted at using the complications with using K2SO in Andor, previously suggesting that his presence limited the types of stories they could tell. But in his interview with Entertainment Weekly, he revealed the droid was also a huge strain on a budget that shrunk between season one and season two, something that has been previously mentioned in other interviews. I remember reading about that actually, that there
Yeah,
were the budget constraints kept getting smaller and smaller. So the fact they were able to do what they did,
I know, right?
we'll get into it in the main show, but my mind is blown. Anything else
Yes.
from you, Jack?
Yes, I've got two more bits. So just one to stick with the Andor stuff. This Tuesday, the day you'll be listening to this episode, hopefully, 13th of May, there is a live Q&A with Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna over on starwars.com, 5 o'clock UK time. I think it's a bit odd that they're doing it now rather than at the very end of the show, but whatever. So hopefully get to see lots of people on the chat. We'll be there, Explore the Force, asking some questions. And the next bit of news I've got is quite exciting. ILM is releasing a book called Industrial Light and Magic 50 Years of Innovation. And it takes readers from day one at ILM in 1975 up to some of the latest projects and innovations at the company today. It's packed with loads of images, visual effects stuff, journalism stuff's in there. There's absolutely buckets loads of ILM goodness in there. So if that's your thing, obviously keep an eye out for when that's coming out. I'm expecting the price to be hitting the hundreds, if I'm totally honest. But I think it's one of those books that, you know, if you're a big fan of that sort of thing, it's definitely worth getting. What do you think, Charlie?
100%. It will be a coffee table book added to my collection of many coffee table books. If you do a little bit of a Google, there are images of this that was shown at Star Wars Celebration, which is super, super exciting. Sneak peeks of the cover. And speaking of prices hitting the hundreds and thousands, the last little bit of news is for all of you lightsaber and prop collectors out there, EFX have announced the Kylo Ren lightsaber limited edition based on 3D scans of the original prop used in Star Wars. So if you want your accuracy, this is what you're going to want. We have no idea on prices. I'm thinking like a Tiffany ring, price on request. That's the feeling I'm getting. However, you can pre-order now and expect to have it shipped in the kind of last half of 2025. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Right, let's head over then to this week's main show. So this week we have not just a special guest, but a new friend made amongst the many at Star Wars Celebration Japan. This week I'm delighted to have an incredibly talented friend, Jonny Tobin. Welcome to the show, Jonny. How are you, and have you recovered from Japan?
I'm doing very well. I've been very inspired from Japan. I have not recovered from Japan. I neither jet lag, financial, or just the experience. I feel like it's all a blur. So, but yeah, I'm kind of just basking in that for sure.
Awesome, awesome. I already mentioned that you're super talented, and I know you've got loads to do, like you've got in your title there, producer, music extraordinaire. So this is the platform now. This is the time, dude. Anything you want to promote, get it out there to listeners. Let them know who you are. Let them know your favorite Star Wars movie, and let's go for your favorite Star Wars character.
All right. Okay. So, first thing, like as far as stuff coming out, on the day of the Andor finale, I've created a very special arrangement, kind of a medley of sorts, with a lot of little surprises in there. So that's going to be dropping at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 3 hours before Andor drops. So whatever time zone you're in, just 3 hours. There'll be a link. I'm doing a YouTube premiere of it, so I'll be on there. People
Nice.
can react live to it. I might live stream after. So that's coming out, a Tuesday. So in 2 days. And then favorite Star Wars movie, probably a tie between. I'll pick one from each trilogy. So Revenge of the Sith, Empire Strikes Back, and Last Jedi. Those are my three.
Nice.
And favorite character, probably. There's so many, right? I think Ahsoka Tano is up there for sure. Qui-Gon Jinn, love Qui-Gon.
Legend.
Nice.
And I'm gonna have to say a newer one being Bix. I love that Bix moment in I believe season 2, episode 6. At the end of that, that was very cathartic when she got to go beat up Dr. Gorth and blow up the thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, but my favorite character, that changes daily, I think.
That is painfully real for every Star Wars fan,
Yeah.
I feel. So I'm really, really glad you're here, Johnny, because I fear that if Jack and I had just tried to do this episode, which we have done over the last couple of days, I am still so unbearably emotional about what we've all just witnessed. I may have just sat here and cried. So thank you for being here to balance the stage. We are going to be talking about possibly the greatest ever selection of Star Wars television that I have ever seen. This is Andor season 2, episodes 7, 8, and 9. This is the penultimate arc. We are in the end game now. And the internet absolutely blew up with I haven't seen the internet this lively and this excited since the Force Awakens trailer dropped. That's
Yeah.
the last time I felt this kind of whoa of rush of people. So, Jack, how are we even going to start tackling this?
Yes, and first off, that is an absolutely amazing point. I'm totally with you on there. I have not seen the internet, especially the Star Wars fandom, take off since The Force Awakens. However, first off, we're going to make it nice and easy. We're going to start off with our initial reactions, which I'm sure are pretty much the same. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to cover the arc in just a couple of words. I did initially think let's do 3 words, and the first thing I put down was at least 6 words. So just yeah, that went straight out the window. So we'll just start with a couple of words. So for me, I'm just going to go for edge of seat action. Nice and easy. Edge of seat action. What about you, Johnny? A couple of words to describe 7, 8, and 9. What would you go for?
Devastatingly good. Dazzlingly brutal.
Nice. Nice. What about you, Charlie?
I have one word, and that word is pain. Thank you.
Oh, oh, nice. Nice. Okay, so what we're going to do then is going to break down each episode and we're going to dive into them. We're going to start off with episode 7, Messenger. I'm going to cover a load of big moments. Charlie, do you want to start us off?
I wouldn't know where to possibly start with these episodes, so I'm going to pick and choose some of the moments that I found really, really interesting, and specifically with how fast-paced these episodes have been recently. The moment with the Force Healer was a real moment of calm in the midst of the storm that I really, really wasn't expecting. It feels like Yavin is bustling with energy. Everyone's got somewhere to go. Everyone's got a job to do, a responsibility to do, and Cassian is hampered with this injury, and you can see that it's really starting to bother him. It's bothering Bix. They're trying to help each other and it's not really working. And this lady comes to him, and Cassian is highly suspicious, as you would be in this
Yeah.
situation. Seems like a bit of a quack. And what results is such a fascinating portion of dialogue. She specifically labels Cassian as a messenger, which is a unique term for the position that we know he takes within the story of Rogue One. I think that's a
Yeah.
really, really fascinating way of describing it. And I think only Tony Gilroy could tackle that like this. Jack, how did you feel about this strange moment of calm?
Yeah, this is a massive part in the Andor series. It's the first time really that we're gonna go down the route about the Force stuff. Obviously, just a bit more context on that. Cassian gets taken to the healer. He doesn't really want to go because he's got that injury that isn't healing quite right. And like Charlie's saying there, yeah, the healer starts describing like a brand new role in connection with the Force called the Gatherers. We're not sure if she's quite Force sensitive or what's quite going on, if I'm honest, because these Gatherers are like people who are bringing everyone else together, and it seems to be directly influenced by the will of the Force, if you like. But yeah, she calls Cassian the messenger, which I think is linked. Well, we know is linked to Rogue One because ultimately his whole goal, if you like, in Rogue One is to get that message out when he's on Scarif. Johnny, how about you? How did you feel about this a little bit?
I thought it was really cool. I think it was definitely, with all the chaos going on, it was nice to have sort of a brief moment in the camp. And I
Yeah,
was just thinking that this also kind of parallels um, the usage of Chirrut Imwe in Rogue One, right? The
yeah,
Donnie Yen character, where he's kind of Force sensitive. He's not a Jedi. Well, he could be a Jedi. We don't really know fully. He's utilizing the Force, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Like I have felt some parallels between those characters. It felt like a more grounded use of the Force, and I felt like you get a bit of a sense similar to real life how there's people who use mysticism and religion, and sometimes they're frauds, and
yeah,
Cassian probably has seen that occurring, right? So but I think this person was legit, and I'd be curious what she actually saw in her mind. Like, did she see glimpses of Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader? Like, did she see kind of the arc of things, because it felt really like she was taken aback. And
Yeah.
I thought maybe Bix maybe even felt something in the Force too. So it was a really cool moment.
Yeah, totally agree with you there. And a really good point that you made there was the feeling that came through to me was similar to you, where I think she saw more, but at the same time, I don't think she wanted to say exactly what she saw in case it changed the future because of how
Yeah.
detrimental that would be. Like Charlie said as well, we're seeing the beginning, if you like, of the rebellion starting to build on Yavin. Super, super busy. Like she said as well, everyone's got roles to play. Everyone's moving at 1,000,000 miles per hour. And yeah, I felt like that was one of the big moments, not just in episode 7, if I'm honest. I thought, going into the Force is quite a big thing for any Star Wars TV show, movie, etc. And I thought they tackled it very, very well. The next one we'll move on to, Johnny, is obviously the Emperor. So he moves forward now with his Gorman plan. And obviously Dedra then tells Cyril to pack and get ready. And things start to go a little bit south, I think, for Cyril and Dedra, because she doesn't quite tell him exactly what's going on, although I think he has something, I think he knows in his head like something bad is coming. And yeah, just telling him to kiss her and trying to shut him up. We've all been there with our wives or loved ones where they're hiding something and they're just like, just give me a kiss and move on. So yeah, the whole moving forward of the Gorman massacre stuff, how did that make you feel, the whole plan moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot, isn't it? I felt I was watching some behind the scenes stuff and just kind of realizing how much real world stuff they were inspired by, revolutions and various massacres and genocides throughout history. And I think they nailed it in terms of channeling that essence. And I think a lot of Star Wars battles, everyone revisits and we're like, oh, we love Geonosis, we love the space battles, but this to me was not a action sequence that I feel like it's gonna be something I want to go back and rewatch over and over the same way some of those other battles were. This feels so brutal, and probably the most brutal and visceral thing we've seen in Star Wars so far. Yeah. What about you, Charlie? How did you feel around this?
Knowing what this episode was leading up to and knowing what we were kind of settling in for, all of this just it made me sick to my stomach. The way that the Empire is so crass and so careless that literally anybody and everybody can get thrown under the bus. The fact that we had the reveal that Dedra was raised in like a kindergarten, an imperial kindergarten. She has never been free of the Empire. She's never been free of the grip of the imperial rule. And now they are so easy to be like, you deal with it, you sort it. And you can see that pressure starting to mount on her. I've been wondering when we would, obviously we'll get to this, but I've been wondering when we'd get the kind of panic attack. And you can see the very early stages of that. And I think what's been really fun as well is for every moment we see Cyril, I'm also thinking of Dedra. Every moment that we see Dedra and she's not with Cyril, I'm also thinking of Cyril. And it's been this kind of game as to who's going to crack first, who's going to turn first. I've been saying for episodes now, one of them's going to turn. I've been treating it like pro wrestling. One of them's going to go face. We're
Same.
going,
Same.
and I'd obviously we get there in a few episodes time, but that is definitely not what's happening. So it's constantly. I feel like I can't breathe. This entire arc, I was just tight-chested and breathless out of anticipation.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well, because again, we're just talking about it like we're all sort of getting the same feelings now, and I think Dedra, like you said, having that panic, which again we all sort of predicted at the Explore the Force, that is us as a listener, as a viewer when we're watching Andor. We're at that stage with him. Again, this is the excellence of Tony Gilroy and his team writing this script and this, amazing piece of TV. And then the last thing that I want to sort of touch on in episode 7, because we've still got so much to cover, is something I felt that was pretty big, was the cracks that are forming with Luthen and Vel, where Vel turns around and says, we aren't Luthen's puppets anymore. So it looks like Luthen's starting to lose grip on his command. We'll start with you, Charlie, because I know you're a massive Vel fan. How did that make you feel?
I'm proud of her. I think she's become very hardened and very jaded, but if anything, it's this is so interesting though, because she's doing what Cassian needs to do, just a couple of steps ahead.
Yeah,
She's done the ultimate sacrifice. She has loved and let go. She has given it all. And now the
yeah,
rebellion rewards. Now she sees what they're moving forward to. Now she sees the whole plan the same way Luthen does, the same way Saw Gerrera does. It might be a slightly different shape, but the same plan is still there. And if anything, I'm proud of her. Like you go, girl. I don't like the trope where one partner loses another in very tragic circumstances and becomes obsessed with grief and paralyzed
yeah,
by grief, and they become this sad, miserable, confined to the darkness. It's not so much something you see now in common, like standard kind of television and film writing, but it is there as a trope, and I'm grateful for Tony Gilroy for being like, no, she's going to go and be a badass, and she's going to tell everyone to get off their bums and do their job, and for her to kind of almost allow the person who killed the woman that she loved kind of there to even be there to even breathe the same air as her. I
mm,
think shows so much growth in such a short amount of time. But this is what the rebellion demands. No.
great point. Great point. How about you, Johnny?
Well, I feel like the Mothma family just is filled with badass women. That's for sure, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I,
Excellent.
I like the idea that her grief is fuel for, like, she takes the grief and she's channeling that and thinking about those who came before and those who weren't alive to make it, and carrying the torch forward. And yeah, there's so much strength there, and it's awesome. I hope that this character appears in other things down the road. I think she's really cool, and yeah, I love what you said, Charlie.
Thank
nice,
you.
nice. So next up is arguably the best episode, or probably again arguably the best 45 minutes of Star Wars live action that we've seen. But we'll get to that. This episode is called "Who Are You?" and what a line! Again, with that title, we didn't know what exactly it meant or who it was coming to. Again, just from an outside perspective, before I'd watched it, I just thought it was another line that Cassian would be saying to someone else that's now doing a spy bit of espionage stuff. Who are you? Do you want to fight? Do you want to win? Etc. Etc. But no, it leads up to probably one of the biggest moments in Andor. It's Cyril's death.
Spoiler.
Yeah,
Oh
spoiler
yeah, sorry
alert.
everyone. Big
Oop.
spoilers.
Yeah, yeah. Um, again, just in another interview, Cyril's death was discussed in detail. More specifically, it was revealed that there were other iterations of the character's death scene in consideration before the final version was settled on. There was actually 3 or 4 different things Cassian was going to say, which they obviously finally ended up on using "Who Are You?" Um, again, people are saying it's perfect because that sort of breaks Cyril in that moment, which we'll sort of dive into in a second. Um, Also, as well, other iterations that were considered were "You" and "It's You," and again, yeah, they just ended up with "Who Are You?" Now we can see as the viewers, this completely cuts Cyril in half. So my sort of view on this, Cyril's been chasing this guy constantly. He finally gets face to face with him, ready to kill him, and I think it's that moment and the reason there were so many different lines, and they decided the perfect line again, in my opinion. It cuts Cyril in half. He's done all this work. He's got all this, you know, stuff happening in the past. He's at the point now where he's literally face to face with the man he's been chasing since season 1, episode 1. And the guy doesn't even recognize him. All that hard work's just gone out the window. I think Cyril realizes, it doesn't matter what you do, but sometimes you just not even recognized or thought of. And yeah, I think you see Cyril die twice, in my personal opinion. And I think that's what helps Cassian and helps that delay. How do you feel about the whole Cyril death and the lines, Johnny?
Yeah, it felt originally, because I knew this guy was probably going to die in the show. Originally, I thought, oh man, it's going to be tragic and sad. But personally, I was actually quite, when he chokes Dedra, that moment, for some reason, that moment to me was more brutal than any of the choking that Darth Vader even does. And so I was like, oh man, whoa, like I'm feeling like this was like that was a gut-wrenching moment for me seeing that happen. And so to me, I think, oh, okay, this guy, unless he does like a 180, he's got to die. And I felt it just kind of sucked because you could see the wheels turning in his brain as far as changing. I actually felt it. A lot of people have compared this to Les Mis, right, with the French resistance.
Yeah,
and
we did
everything.
last week. Yeah,
And to me, another Les Mis comparison, I feel like Cyril is Javert from Les Mis because he's obsessed with this one person, right? Finding Jean Valjean, Cassian Andor, and so that is his undoing in Les Mis, right? He kills himself in Les Mis because he just can't stand that he let this guy go. So it's a similar kind of thing. I don't know if they were inspired by that at all, but it immediately brought me there, and I thought, man, like if Cassian hadn't been there, Cyril's arc would have been so different, and he could have ended up becoming part of the rebellion and all this stuff. But just because of this one person, he just couldn't let go. So that to me was kind of my main. It was very tragic.
Yeah, nice. And again, Charlie absolutely called this last week when she compared this to Les Miserables, and I've seen it on the internet everywhere since she announced this. So again, my personal opinion, credit to Charlie, because she's clearly seen the influence or the potential ideas for this. Charlie, how did it make you feel?
Gosh, right. Is everybody comfortable? Because I've got some things to say. I've got some
Here we
things
go.
to say. So cycling us back to the start of the episode with the choke specifically. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Johnny. That's an excellent way to kind of jump off onto my point. Everything we've seen of Cyril so far has been really soft. He is a soft boy with a soft mum, and he eats his cereal and he collects his spiders and he presses his shirts. And yeah, maybe him and Dedra do some interesting things when the lights are turned off. But other than that, he's a very gentle, soft character. We are deliberately made to sympathize and empathize with what effectively is a representation of fascism, heavy, heavy fascism. And this like episode specifically, we see this kind of snap in Cyril, and when he chokes Dedra, when he tries to exert the control over her that she has tried to exert over him, it's it's frightening whilst also being quite pathetic because you can see that she's struggling because she can't breathe. She's not struggling because she's out of control. And as soon as his hands are
Okay, so Charlie has been cut off by the ISB already. So hopefully Cassian is on the way to get Charlie out of there. Me and Johnny, we'll just carry on. So the next thing I wanted to speak about is basically Dedra. Charlie's led me nicely down that route. Is her resolve pretty much collapsed at Cyril? Now I did think that she didn't really care for Cyril and she was just using him. But I think I completely got that wrong because I think we see that emotional stage of her develop, and she does really care for Cyril. Like she just send her guy out to go and get him, and then she realizes he's out there, and then it sort of really hits home hard. How did that make you feel? That whole sequence of Dedra breaking down, Johnny?
Man, the imagery I thought was really powerful, and I think that some of that moment was shown in the trailers, like when she's going like this, and and people online were like, "Oh, it's gonna be Darth Vader appearing."
Yeah.
I'm really glad they didn't do that, and I think this was way more powerful, to be honest. And even the chamber that she was in during that time when she has that breakdown, it almost kind of looks like one of those like quiet rooms, like in a mental asylum, and like a straitjacket type thing. So I think they were definitely evoking that, and yeah, I think she's just feeling trapped by the Empire at this point. I'm assuming, and I feel like there was kind of a look of horror on her face when she saw what was unfolding and what her trigger finger unleashed.
Yeah, big time. And she even said as well in the earlier episode, she didn't want that assignment at all, did she? She just wasn't interested.
Yeah.
The next thing as well, just to go through, is the actual massacre. I'm going to call it a massacre because it absolutely was on both fronts. Because again, we see the Empire's sort of decision making to send the let's say the new guys on the front line, a little protection, knowing that they're probably not going to come back. And I think their commander even knew that, but they're all new, eager recruits. They were sort of sacrificed to initiate that fire. Again, the Empire unwillingness throughout, the merciless killing, the shooting. They'd locked off all the exits, and they literally just mowned the people down. Quite fortunate, I think, in the first place that the little resistance that they had going actually had weapons. Otherwise, I think that would have been over a lot quicker had it not. And as well, the hotel guest or the hotel receptionist, should I say, again letting people in for cover, which is where we've seen Cassian and Cyril have their little fight scene. So there's a lot to take away from the massacre. But what did you think of the massacre itself, Johnny? Were you surprised at the Emperor's tactics?
A little bit, yeah. I think it mirrored, sometimes what happens in a real life riot or rebellion. And if I recall, like they had a sniper and he shot at one of the young Imperial guys, right? So he shot his own person, and that kind of instigated things. So it was brutal, and I felt bad for those young recruits in there that were basically just sent to the chopping block. Yeah, it was really hard to watch. I felt like the KX units, seeing them just tossing people.
Yes.
I just beat Jedi Survivor the other day, and you're fighting a lot of those KX units, but they're not nearly as brutal in the game as they show in this show. And just like the carnage, throwing, I forget the character's name, but the Gorman woman who was like one of the main rebellion leaders there, and she just gets thrown and just dies on impact. Like there was some really brutal moments. Yeah. So not a fun time, but I think it was important to see this so that you really get like when you see the Death Star blowing something up, you don't really sense the weight of that. You feel the weight of this a lot more.
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. I think that's why it's so ruthless, and that's the again excellent work of Tony Gilroy and his team. The portrayal, it felt like a massacre. It really did feel like a massacre. And again, beautiful point there. It's that making you feel the Empire's ruthlessness. Putting a bit more edge on the Empire's name. And yeah, bringing on to the last point, you sort of mentioned with the KX units, we finally, we think, but we pretty much know, we finally see K2, and K2 come pretty close to killing Cassian. Unfortunately for him. I think at one point as well, when we keep flicking back to Cassian, he sort of knew that the end was coming for him until he was saved, and the K2 was chopped in half, and then we sort of have that scene there. Then when they're on the ship, K2's in half going back, and then Cassian I think he really starts to break down, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think I don't know if you heard about the interview where they were talking about the original plan was they were going to have a whole episode of K2 and almost inspired by the Alien movies, and he's hunting them on a ship. Personally, I like this a lot more because that moment when they ran into him and he's cut in half in the wall, like that was like, yes, like finally something positive in this episode. And now forever that droid will be a memory for Cassian of this battle and this massacre and what unfolded, but something good was able to come out of that. And so I think it adds a lot more significance to the character of K2SO as well.
Yeah. And again, another excellent point. You've just mentioned it there. Him having K2SO around is that memory of what's happened, what he's been through. So every time he looks at that droid, he's got that memory of, a lot of people have just been killed. K2 almost killed him. So yeah, really good point. We did actually know about the rumors of the horror movie. We mentioned it earlier in the news. So if you tune in now, just head back to news and check that out. And then that was pretty much episode 8 wrapped up. I think it hit like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, scored extremely high, rightly so. That one really, really hit you hard. And just when you thought, right, that's enough emotional damage for one day, we still got episode 9. And what a way to end this. Again, lots of big moments. I think this episode is more geared towards Mon Mothma, if I'm right in saying. And I'll start with the speech excellent script, writing, acting, everything was absolutely on point. How did it make you feel, Johnny? What's your thoughts on Mon Mothma's big speech?
Loved it. I thought it was there was a lot building up to it, and the payoff was great. And
Yeah.
yeah, I felt like when she used the word genocide in that, I got chills. And then when she was able to get out the words Palpatine before they shut it down.
Yeah.
And so I think it was just perfect and powerful. And yeah, very I love how they showed kind of her tension, like just without even saying any words, just her kind of nervousness and stuff before coming up to present. Yeah, the all the Senate stuff, the build up there was really well done.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I absolutely love the line where it was the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil.
Mm-hmm.
What a line that was. And also it's linked as well to the Rebels episode. Again, there's a lot of talk where I forgot the character's name off the top of my head, but he's basically telling Cassian, Gold Squadron are going to bring her into Yavin. She'll have a full escort. We need to broadcast this across the galaxy itself. Again, super, super powerful. But before any of that's happening, the getaway. What did you think about Cassian's getaway with Mon Mothma?
I loved it. I thought it was great that she actually trusted him, because she really, she had kind of a bit of a falling out with Luthen and her own personal security. What's his name? Erskine.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh man, she might end up going with Bail Organa's unit. And thankfully, she went with Cassian and accepted that. And it was kind of funny to see like some of the killing he did just without a thought. And she was like, oh, you killed that person. Oh no.
I know, right?
So I think this is showing Mon's realization, like, okay, this is the groundwork. Like,
Yes.
you're doing the speech and that's necessary, but also underlaying that is all this groundwork and the people doing the dirty work that has to be done. And she's witnessing that in real time. And it's like, well, you got to accept this, that you're on this path now. And like, this is it. You got to just do or die.
That's it. Yeah. That's really her first, what we know of, witness of first-hand pretty much murder right in front of her eyes. Like you say, obviously she's lost quite a lot up until this point. Her daughter's been married off, her best friend's just been assassinated back at the wedding. She sort of fell out of love with her husband. She realizes, before the speech, once she drops his speech, that is it for her. She knows that they will come for her. Again, awesome line. I have friends everywhere, sort of little code name. Very apt, I thought. Again, Cassian did an amazing job. Felt a bit bad for the driver, if I'm honest. He didn't really get a look in, but hey ho. I did love the fact that she was told, don't change your driver because they might not send someone as stupid. I thought that was very clever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it links up to that episode, Welcome to the Rebellion, season 2 and episode 9. Ties in wonderfully. And it's like Tony Gilroy sort of hijacked canon. She's been rescued by the Gold Squadron, and then the speech that she gives in Rebels sort of mirrors what she's just said as well. And it's just absolutely phenomenal writing again by Tony Gilroy and his team. The acting is just absolutely superb.
Mm-hmm.
And then we sort of think, right, okay, that's that episode done. Happy days. But it's not. It's not. There's still more pain for us, the viewers, if you like. Cassian obviously gets back, very shook up. We've seen now the trauma that he's been through. And I think at this point as well, and we sort of feel this, he needs Bix, or he needs some form of emotional support more than ever. But at the same time, we know that Bix is sort of breaking down, struggling to cope herself, and she sort of realizes that she can't be around Cassian because she's too much of a hindrance. And ultimately, he wakes up and she's gone. And I've seen no end of reactions again. I've seen tears from all sorts of people as well. And it really, really hits home, the sacrifice, everything that's happening. How did that make you feel, Johnny?
What's funny, because when I first saw the message, and it's I forget the opening words, but it's something like, if you're seeing that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, did she take her own life? Like that
I
was my
thought that.
first that was my
Yeah.
first thought, right? Because she had some struggles with drugs and all the
Yeah.
trauma, and I thought the comfort of Yavin 4 was not enough, and she just ended it. But I'm grateful that she at least just went off somewhere, and I think this kind of means that Bix probably survives. Maybe not the entire time of the Galactic Civil War, but at least she
Mm.
probably will survive longer than Cassian. And I felt it's a little bit brutal for them, but I thought, this woman deserves some peace and some rest. So I hope that
Yeah.
I hope she's not going on a mission. I hope she actually just goes to like a retreat center on like Outer Rim planet. But
Yeah.
for Cassian, that is devastating, because I think so much of why he was fighting was for Bix. First it was
Yeah.
Marva. Season 1, it was for Marva. Marva passes away, and
Yeah.
then Bix Brasso passes away. So there's not a lot of remaining people from Ferrix that
No.
are around, right? So now it's sort of like, what does Cassian have?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I know we've still got Willman. He was still hanging around. He went
Yeah.
back for his Resistance girlfriend. I presume they made it out okay.
Yeah.
But yes, Bix is gone. Hopefully she does make it, and we've still got 3 more episodes. I mean,
Yeah.
we know how it's gonna end. That's a given, but we still don't know how it's gonna lead up to that point.
Mhm.
We've got about 2 hours worth, give or take,
Yeah.
of Andor goodness left to go. Let's say 10 minutes of that is probably Cassian going through the street after the informant. Let's say we've got 100 minutes. What are they going to fit in 100 minutes up to that point? What do you want to see now, John? Is there anything left for you that you'd like to see more of before the start of Rogue One?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think they have said it leads directly in, like, the
Yeah, it does.
opening
Yeah.
moments of Rogue One, right? So I think what I would like to see would be, I want to see a bit more Krennic, maybe Tarkin.
Nice.
I'd like to see some more galaxy, someone on the other side of the galaxy kind of
Yeah.
joining the rebel cause, and getting Mon's message and getting a sense of like, okay, this has worked. We
Yeah.
know it works, but it'd be nice to just see a bit of that. I would like to see Galen Erso, at least in one episode, just to kind of like
Yeah.
further connect that tissue. I do want to see more Saw Gerrera. I think he was
Yes.
absent from this arc, and it
Yes.
didn't fully make sense, I guess, to show him in the arc. But
Mm.
I feel like I'd love to know his response to Gorman, and
Yes.
if he had seen videos of Gorman, what was he reacting like? And I think some good solid moments with Saw Gerrera in the
Yeah.
next arc would be amazing. That probably is the top of my list, because I feel like that character has a lot more
Yeah.
exploration. Yeah. What about yourself? Is there any theories or hopes for these?
Mate, this is why we clicked at Celebration Japan. 100% the same as you. I need more Saw Gerrera. I'm a
Yeah.
massive, massive fan of Saw Gerrera, let alone Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
That character is amazing, and I love the crew that he's got together. His own little resistance, if you like. So I'd love to see his reaction after the Gorman massacre. I think that's an absolutely amazing point. I do think we're going to get some Galen Erso. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd like to see how Jyn Erso ended up getting arrested, because obviously in Rogue One she gets rescued, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we've seen a bit of Jyn Erso getting arrested. Maybe that's wishful thinking, if I'm completely honest. I'd like to see what happens with Bix as well, obviously. Hopefully she doesn't die, become another Bix in the wall, pun intended. But, time will tell. We haven't got that long to wait. By the time everyone's listening to this, it's going to be released in a few more hours anyway. But yeah, 100% same as you, buddy. High on my list is more Saw Gerrera, please. And hopefully a little bit more K2 as well. And obviously, budget-wise, they struggled, hence why they didn't do the whole horror theme for K2. So yeah, maybe a bit more K2 be nice. But yeah, Saw Gerrera is well up there. Are you hoping for any more, let's say, like cameo special guests? Maybe the Rebels, the Ghost Squadron.
Well, this would be like and I'm biased right now because I just literally rolled credits on Jedi Survivor. So I just played the game and beat it. And if Cal Kestis appears, I would like because I don't know if you've played Jedi Survivor, but he does missions for Saw Gerrera, right? That's referenced at least 5 or 6 times. So how cool would that be if he's just Cameron Monaghan is making a cameo there? I doubt they would do that. That's so specific, but I would love to just see him, dispatch Cal Kestis for a cameo. I don't think we need a Darth Vader cameo.
Nah.
I think an Emperor cameo could be good. Just because they've mentioned him so many times, and I think a politics scene with him could be really cool. Like maybe like an ISB boardroom, and he talks like. I would love to see an Ian McDermott monologue talking about Gorman and, like, yes, I love that we killed all of these people. Yes. Like, like just really, really juicy and just vile and evil. I think that would be, I don't think Tony Gilroy would do it, but if I'm my fan service brain, that's kind of what would be cool.
Nice. Amazing. Well, Jonny, thank you so much for joining us again. Happy Mother's Day to your family. I know you're going out shortly to do all your Mother's Day goodness. And again, just for the listeners, buddy, let them know who you are, where you're from, and where they can find any of your awesome, amazing work, buddy. The floor is yours. Feel free to promote.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, my name's Jonny Tobin, lifelong Star Wars fan, full-time musician, composer. I've worked on Grammy and Juno nominated projects. And you can find me on all platforms under Jonny Tobin. I have 6 albums out. And yeah, the day that Andor drops, I'm also releasing a special Andor epic medley theme song arrangement on my YouTube page. So check that out when that's out. And it'll be out before the episode. So it'll kind of give you some fuel to hype up your before you get to see Saw Gerrera back in action.
Awesome. Again, thank you very much. And for the listeners and viewers, if you have any questions or just want your voice heard, then DM us on our socials or send us an email or voice note at exploretheforce@gmail.com. Remember to like this episode, share it with your Star Wars friends and family, and to follow us on all our social media platforms. All you have to do is search Explore the Force, all one word. And if you watch on YouTube, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to show your support and spread the word around by image as well as voice, then head over to Redbubble and search Explore the Force, where you can purchase Explore the Force merchandise. And again, a massive thank you to the incredible Mark Roll for his jingles and jangles and tunes on the podcast, and show him some love by checking out his music as well on his page. Again, Jonny, thank you so much. Thank you to all the listeners and the viewers. You've been listening to Explore the Force, and we have spoken. Take care.
At the end, you'll understand.
Close your eyes. Feel it.
I am a Senate. Wise as Master Yoda, as powerful as Master Windu.
They'll do their job well. I'll guarantee that.
I am going to end this once and for all.
You were the chosen one!